Welcome or welcome back to Dr. Lena Down Under. I'm calmer now. What about all those protests in every state? What a buzz. That was just so wonderful to see. And even though the legacy media managed to not show it a great deal, around the world, we saw massive, diverse images of the protests. So don't feel that it's not getting covered. We're all seeing it. So that's something. But they have to keep going, right? So, as one viewer said, it's time to strike like the 1930s, protest like the 60s, and fight like it's right now. So that's where we're at. But joy of joys, Time magazine, front cover, the muskrat behind the Resolute desk. Oh, awesome. So the Yeti, who just 8 weeks ago was saying how wonderful Time magazine is, now says, is it even still in business? But he'd hate it. Let's have a look. Let's just dive into what the Nepo man baby thinks about it. Sorry about that crashing. It's been silent all morning, and I just sat down to do a video, and now they've decided to bring out the power tools and throw things from a roof. I hope you can hear me. Oh, dear. Oh, so let's have a look. How is it? What are they doing? Oh, okay, let's go. Oh, not happy jam. Okay, so, oh, look, Trump will be spewing. That's a British expression that we've inherited over here in Australia for throwing up. Someone's spewing, meaning they're really angry. Okay. He feels outraged. He's actually, this is tipping the Yeti into revenge fantasies. I don't think he slept since this was published. This is really getting up his nose. Oh, God. And this is the card of ruthlessness. Oh, I think this is the beginning of something bigger. It was a shock to him. I don't think this is what happens when you surround yourself with yes people. People don't want to give you bad news. I don't think he knew about it until he saw it. In other words, I don't think the muskrat told him. Stinky fish, surprise news. I don't think he knew. This is the justice card. Well, this is his just desserts, isn't it? When you behave like this, and now you're playing with an even bigger player than yourself. Don't, right? Scales of justice, what goes around comes around. He's not happy and not sleeping. I think this comes on top because he can't look at headlines or hear anything without hearing must. That would be irking him. And now this. He's actually upset. And he doesn't get upset, he just gets angry. But I think he's actually in turmoil. He can't think of anything bad enough to do. What can he do? We're going to see more of these fantastically mad moments in history, along with everything else, right? So what's next on the list? Oh, well, okay. Before I get into that, I digress. Let's talk for a minute about the cutting of money to US aid, right? Now, I taught a master's program for students from all over the world. They were from Egypt and Bangladesh and Jordan and Louisville, Kentucky, and the Pacific and Chad and Mali and Zambia, all over the world, about US aid and other aid for development and what happens to it, what are the good things about it, what are the bad things about it, what goes on with aid on the ground. Now, most of the actual workers, the aid workers on the ground, are really committed to the cause. They often live in very difficult conditions. They are committed to what they do. So we're not talking about them. They're the ones that are in the first range of firing. Talking about the industry, because let me tell you, development and aid is an industry. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing is US aid since the Bush years has been what's called tied aid. It was tied to a Christian agenda. So you could give the kids a measles vaccination, but you couldn't talk to the women about contraception because all of this 1950s evangelical nonsense had already eroded US aid. But the third point, which is the major point that you can bring out when you're having conversations with relatives, is the way aid is designed, there's a humanitarian level, but it's not the bulk of the money. Yes, it's important to dig a well where people don't have fresh water. It's important to do these projects. They're the real projects. And that's where your mind goes when you think about it. No, because big business has already made its corrupt, wormy way through the industry. So they will go to a subsistence farmer in Pakistan or somewhere and say, here's fertilizer. Now, we want you to only grow this and not that, and just sign here. So the subsistence farmer just wants the fertilizer and signs something, and they've now got a 10-year contract with some hideous industry that they can't possibly afford or service. So there's a nightmare aspect to the aid industry too. And it's not that it's all good and it's all bad, it's all those things. But the good that it does, I won't say it outweighs the other stuff because I could talk to you for 6 hours about the evils of Monsanto and similar corporations. But it's immediate. It's immediate. It saves lives, and now people will die because of it. It's absolutely insurmountable. And where are the American Christians? Okay, so moving on. Now to the muskrat himself. First, there were headlines how much money he'd made since the election because of maneuvering on the stock market, and he's a welfare queen, as we know. However, things are falling through the floor. No one wants to be associated with Tesla anymore. And the Tesla Cybertruck, not the usual cars, the full-blown, virtual Humvee Cybertruck, has been banned in Germany and the UK, I think, because it doesn't meet road regulations. And I shouldn't have been surprised, but I was. The US auto industry is self-regulating. That'll be all right. No, no. So it's falling. The banks have sold how much? 5.5 billion of Musk's personal debt. We haven't heard much about his personal debt until this point. And they have ditched, they've already done it. Last week, they ditched $5.5 billion of his debt to their other corporate customers. You know how they sell debt. It's all very weird. Meanwhile, X is sinking. He's suing his own advertisers, Lego, Shell. What's actually happening for Musk right now? Let's have a look at the muskrat himself. Oh. All right. Look, for now, his this Four of Wands, this is a connection with other people and things. Could be the ex-wives, who I've always said are going to be the ones to really flush him away. But I think it's more than that. Like Trump, they have so much in common. And probably 6 months ago, I would have said, except Elon's smarter. I'm not even convinced he is. He's just that bit younger. These are the deals that are already in place, right, that are holding him up at the moment. However, underneath this hierophant, this is the people suing Musk, right? Government law and order. Look what he's done with the federal workers. There's something like 2.3 million federal workers, may even be more in the US. He thought, like Trump, everyone can be bought. So he thought his aim was, I wrote it down here, I couldn't believe it. He thought 70% of federal workers would take the package. No, it's like 4%. Only something like 40,000 people out of millions have said yes. So this is the hierophant. This could be a lawsuit or a big number of lawsuits on wrongful dismissal. Haven't had my second coffee. Court, court, court. Not so golden anymore. This can be the card of fool's gold. This is what I think it's actually representing here. Fool's gold. To be even in the sphere of Elon Musk a few years ago meant you were mixing with the big time, the big tech bros, and they still are. However, I think their personal fortunes are tied up together, and his is not looking good. He doesn't know what to do. Part of the Four of Swords, he's got all these fours here. Part of the Four of Swords is meditating. Well, I wouldn't be holding my breath till he decided to meditate because he's so manic. But figuratively speaking, this figure is trying to work out the puzzle that's represented by the stained glass windows. And I don't think he's got much of a clue about how to get out of this. Now, his only way, like the Yeti, is to go forward and sue everyone in a 1,000-mile radius, and that's what you do. And I'm the tough guy. It's so boring. It is so boring. Apart from being exhausting for all of us, apart from being terrifying in its implications, it can at the same time magically be boring. And he's getting boring. It will come. It will come. The card of karma, fate, and destiny. And if you put those two stories together, the Time magazine cover and this, I would say he's got to look out for March too. We're still in the first bit of February, but if you watch the astrologers, and I'm certainly going to watch more of them in the next month, because in March, there's a solar eclipse, there's a lunar eclipse, there's a full moon bang in the middle around the 14th, along with the lunar eclipse. And if you remember from your history, beware the Ides of March. The full moon, the lunar eclipse, and the Ides of March all are within a couple of days of each other. And that was when Julius Caesar was actually assassinated by 60 members of the Senate. Now, I'm not suggesting it will be the Senate per se, the point being by a lot of people. Ides of March, we'll have to keep our eyes out. Now, Dems needing to fire up. Chuck Schumer, all the old guard need to move aside. No more bleating. It's not that these guys aren't smart or reasonable, not the time. AOC has put out a video. I'm sure you're hearing about it. What to do to fight back. She's been great. Jasmine Crockett. Wow. 2028, bring on Jasmine. And I watched a clip, I'll pin it up on the comments here. Do you guys know Tennessee Brando? So he's one of those Southern guys who's a Democrat and out there, like the liberal redneck, like Beau of the Fifth Column. There's a few of them. And they're doing a great job. But Tennessee Brando was saying to his viewers, watch this clip of Jasmine Crockett. And he said it's the tone that's important. She fires you up. She makes you feel like it can happen and that you have the power to combine with others and defeat this madness. It's her tone. What she says is fabulous. But no, and AOC's got it too. They both have the it factor. But the others, particularly the men, even the really good men, they're just wimping on about, policy things and things that have happened. No, you've got to capture emotions. Now, we are a couple of months out from an election. I'm dreading it. We're probably going to vote for the Conservative Voldemort, this hideous guy, Dutton. Why? Because Australia votes for one, then votes for the other, then votes for. Yeah. But Labor, my mob, the equivalent of the Dems, have just launched a new ad campaign. It is so boring, I cannot begin to tell you. I've written to everyone I know in the Labor Party and go, pull that ad. It's it's just the worst ad ever in the history of the world. So we're no different. It's just a different scale, and we are also extremely vulnerable to what's happening now and what's going on. So I want to have a look. So with the Dems, is their messaging going to upgrade? Are they going to have any cut through? What's happening with the Dems? What's happening with the Dems? Come on, Dems. Let's go. All right. I think they're quite good cards. No majors. I would have preferred to see a major, but look, there's no real surprises. I've been waiting. I don't know what they're waiting for, but the leadership has been AWOL since November 8th or something like that. It's just, how will we do? So over it. I'm sure you guys are as well. They've got to deal with their legacy. This is the card of legacies, and the legacy is to be reasonable. No, you've got to go and scream, they are coming after your 401k. How are you going to pay for your mother's insulin? Name and shame, right? Their legacy is not helping them. The future is out there. And this raises to me the issue of DEY being the new, can't be mentioned, has to be taken off every website in the history of government funding, and et cetera, et cetera. In a leopard ate my face moment, white women are beginning to realize, oh, okay, that's me, because there were very few women in this field. Or 65-year-old men who can't afford to retire going, oh, DEI includes me because I'm an older worker. Oh, didn't know that. Celebrate it. licking the wounds now, right? Sling on the arm, but this isn't fatal, not fatal. And they've just got to push every legal angle. Now, we know that there's going to be a deluge of law cases. I think this is, really going to act as a bulwark, please, for what's going on to clog up the courts so it can't get to the Supreme Court. So lesser courts will have more say and make sane decisions. I think some of the more broad issues, the Yeti's not going to comply with, but department by department and these other things, there's still a big role for the law to play. Right now, often I do cards for you guys, but I'm not today. I'm going to do cards for the USA for the rest of February. And let's see what turns up there. Now, let's have a look. Oh, that's something I saw yesterday. I think I had thought about this, but I hadn't brought it to the front of my brain. And it's actually a scary development in the sense it's what we thought, but it wasn't confirmed. 6 Republicans in Congress, under the condition of anonymity, spoke to someone in Pressland, and they were saying the reason they're not crossing the aisle on some of these votes that are going to come forward, even in advance, they're saying this, because they're scared. They're scared of Trump. They're scared of their voters. But what's really holding them back is they're scared for their families. Now, this is horrifying. This happens in failed states, right, where you're terrified for your family because you're going to take a government position. I think this needs to be brought into the light of day. And I think it needs to be called out by the Dems. Be kind when you're saying it, but give them a bit of a barb and say, for those of you in Congress who are afraid to vote as your conscience tells you to vote because you are afraid for your families, you must stand up in this time. You are in this position to stop this. You cannot let fear stand in the way. And if you can't handle the heat in the kitchen, get out and let's have a by-election. But really offer sympathy because everyone is at risk. It's a terrible time. It's not, I'm not saying, oh, it's not real, why then, but actually bring that up front so they can have a conversation then amongst themselves. I think that's probably my biggest message for today. But let's have a look at USA, the rest of February. Oh, sorry, sloppy shuffling. That's her. Have a look here. Confusion. Well, yes. Cycle. Okay, here's what's going on. Everyone is confused. Everyone is confused. And that's part of the chaos merchant's plan, right? Keep everyone off balance. You can't react to what you heard this morning because it's been superseded in the afternoon. I'm just one person. What can I do? All of that, all of it. Not surprising. Bear in mind, this is USA, not just you, my community. Big hug. This is big picture. What are the psychological things that are going on? Things are just moving so fast. Just whoosh. what are the practical things that are going on for people? They're starting to see, I think nationwide, people are starting to see that what they thought was their social contract with the state, I don't mean your individual state, I mean the nation state of the United States, is imperiled. The energy over the issue, I take this in a calming sense. And once again, it's women coming forward. And apart from all the misogyny that has now been unleashed on all these platforms and everything, even though these MAGA guys are truly fightful and there are problems with individual families like Stuart Rhodes, et cetera, I think for most men who have sisters and daughters and nieces and mums, I think it's beginning to come home to roost. But this is the card of women actually waking up. I think possibly, I know the MAGA women are welded on. I don't see them, we're talking February, they're not there yet. Not enough leopards have eaten enough faces. But I think the seeds are being sown. Short-term outcome, take breaks from the manners. This card is saying to me when I think about the whole nation, we just need to get to this point. He won't really do this. Yeah, no, it'll be all right. It'll be all right because it's always been all right. Okay, I think that's what a lot of people are telling themselves, right? But I think my advice to you guys within this bigger picture is take time out to get to calm spaces, just like I had to make that manic video the other day, get it out of the system. Now I'm calmer. I need to be calm. Now, again, back to the whole nation. How much did your eggs cost last week? People are going to start feeling it, right? At least with you guys, you've got a heads up with the community and what we've talked about for months. For many people, they're going to really start to feel the economics. This is Pentacles, and that's product by product as the tariffs kick in and different things kick in. But here's an interesting twist for this card in this context. These people are walking past the church and they're missing the light. This could be a time when people actually start to question what they're being told from the pulpit, particularly in these southern states where you're born a Southern Baptist or an evangelical or whatever, and you die the same way. This is going to be part of the enlightening for them. So for you guys, this is really time, excuse me, network, network, network. Try and find ways to save money and help someone else at the same time, because individuals aren't going to save America. The collective mind shift has to move away from the individual and realize in this same boat together to come out the other side. So for you guys who obviously are smart, alternative people, please, and I know from the comments, you guys are doing all sorts of stuff, from food co-ops to carpools to all sorts of things. And particularly with anything, we used to have the car boot sale and you can still can and things like that. But just find out in your geographic area who needs what. And you might be the keyboard warrior that connects up the single mother with 4 kids with the very nice couch that's been upgraded from the dentist down the road, whatever. Right. Any form of networking is going to really magnify now. Okay. So look after yourselves, stay safe, and I'm going to put links up. Oh, before you go, the famous last minute Lena. There's two organizations I'm pushing, and I couldn't find my t-shirt. I've got an Indivisible LA t-shirt, can't find it. So indivisible.org is a very good organization for finding out what you can do in your area. AOC has done her video, but also I support always the ACLU because they're pushing the court cases. Most of their lawyers are working for pro bono or really radically underpaid. They need resourcing because they were there back in the day, right? So indivisible.org and ACLU are my recommendations because they're both solid, right? Take care, guys. See you before you know it. Ciao, ciao.